In this video, I will walk you through the process of using the design template to plan your builds and figure out how many materials you're going to need to construct them. Planning is an important part of the building process as it prevents you from overgathering or undergathering resources and allows you to get a general idea of what it is you're trying to build. To start with, we're going to go to the Create menu and select Create a New Schematic. We're going to enter a name and click OK. It takes the script a second to construct it for us, and it copies the data over that we need to plan our colony. So looking at this, we have a lot of cells to work with here in which to make our design, but notice how they are all rectangular. This is not a very useful shape for when we're planning out square builds. So I'm going to go to Create, Clean Up, and Make All Cells a Square. This makes everything uniform in size, though it may mess up this text a little bit. Similarly, if we scroll down to the bottom, there are some excess rows. So we don't need these down here, so I'm going to go to Create, Clean Up, and remove excess rows and columns. With that, the design template is nice and clean and ready for us to work with. Now, we're going to be using this design template to plan our Mars colony in Minecraft. However, one thing to keep in mind is each cell does not represent a single block. As we can see here, each of these cells represents a 10 meter by 10 meter area, or 10 blocks by 10 blocks. So, if you want, you can go to Create, Settings, and set the cell size to where each of them is instead a 1 by 1 area, measured in meters. We can use these settings by setting the cell size to help upscale our model while keeping all distance ratios the same. So it can be helpful if we decide perhaps what we are building is too small or too large. Now let's start planning. So I'm going to put some numbers in these cells to represent the heights of the blocks that we're going to put in this region. So for this example, this means we're going to build something 3 cells tall, 4 cells tall, 4 cells tall, etc. So this doesn't mean so this is going to be 3 blocks tall in this example because each cell represents 1 block. So I'm going to highlight all of these to turn it into a selected range. A range is a collection of cells which we can operate on. I'm going to fill them in so that we can see them easier. Now, we can manually enter our cell data like so, but this can get rather tedious. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to construct a merged range. I'm going to select this 3 by 3 clump of cells, and I'm going to merge them together. So now, let's color this in. This collection of cells are all supposed to be 5 units tall. So it's a 3 by 3 by 5 area of blocks. We can continue planning here until we have the structure that we want. In this example, I'm going to be making just a very basic square storage silo so we can store our materials when we don't need them. Its corners are going to be slightly lower than the rest, and the center is going to be higher than the rest. I'm going to color code everything just so it's a little bit easier to read. Now that I've completed drawing the structure that I want here, we can use one of the more powerful features of Google Sheets. Not only can we use it to visualize data, but we can also calculate data based off of it. Now in this example, we can see what this is going to look like to us, but we don't know how much land we need to clear to make it, nor do we know how many materials it's going to take. So I'm going to highlight all of this to turn it into a selected range. Go to Create, Calculate, and Area of Selected Range. It says it takes 25 square blocks, which is not a lot of land to clear, and we can confirm for ourselves because this is a 5 cell by 5 cell area, and one cell is equal to 1 block. So, but that's only a 5 by 5 silo, which is perhaps not enough storage space. So that's why we can now upscale everything. I'm going to double it in every dimension, as we can see here, and highlight all this, and we should have a lot more area to work with now. 100 square blocks. So we've increased the area by 4 times, that is to say. So now we have a lot more land we need to clear, but it's also going to give us a lot more storage space inside of it. Now that we know we want it to have a 2 by 2, an x2 scale, if you will, a 1 to 2 scale of cells to blocks, I'm going to need to calculate the volume to see approximately how many blocks this will take to build. It takes it a minute to run, but as we can see, it takes 840 cubic blocks to make, which is not a lot, especially when you consider that the silo is going to be almost completely hollow. So this seems reasonable. It's important to make sure that you have enough materials on hand to build this, and this tells us that it will not take a really long time to build. If we had instead chosen to go an even larger scale with a gigantic 10 by 10, no, not 10 by 10, in this case it would be 50 by 50 silo, it would take a lot of materials to make. As you can see, let's see, how much is that? That's 1/10 of a million. Mining 1/10 of a million blocks, granted a lot less because this is hollow, would not be a pleasant task. So that's probably not a good idea, so we are still going to go with the smaller scale. Now I'm going to use the design template schematic to construct one of these silos. So on one side of the screen I have the template, and on the other I have Minecraft, so I can actually build the thing. So the first thing I need to do is remember the silo has a 100 block area, so it is 10 by 10. So I need to find somewhere on Mars where there is a 10 by 10 area. So this area here is pretty flat, so it looks like it's a good place to build. So I'm going to start by laying the foundation. Alright, so this should be a 10 by 10 area here. So yeah, that's 10 by 10. So now I am going to start building up the walls. And we're done. So going a 10 by 10 area rather than 5 by 5 appears to have been a good choice. It's pretty spacious in here. Would not have been we would not have a lot of storage space if I had stuck to just 5 by 5. And it looks just about the right size too, so going a 1 to 2 scale of cells to blocks appears to have been a good choice. Now we could of course take more creative liberties with this, like rounding out the corners for example, but this is just an example to show you how to go about using the spreadsheet as a tool to plan your builds, you know, the general layout of them. So each of these 2 by 2 by 2 cubes of blocks represents one cell in our spreadsheet. So it looks like it translated over pretty nicely. So that is it for my tutorial on how to use the design template tool. You don't have to use it this way, you know, you can just use it as a planning tool to get the area and volume to figure out how much land to clear and how long it will take you to construct something.